Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And so I thought we start with some just sitting and watching the mind kind of thing, or actually training in what's called shamatha, like, that to train the mind to be on an object and not to go too much. Or if it goes into thoughts, like not to follow the thoughts, because it is just a training. And as I was just saying to Jeff, this the difference between when you wait, you notice that we are kind of a little bit only. It's quite subtle that we're not relaxed when we're waiting, because it's a different mind state than when you just are. So, and this is why we do these just silent meditations, that you train the mind to know what is going on, basically, but to give the mind an object so that it will calm down. Because if we want transformation in the mind, and especially when it comes to karma, shamatha is very important, because otherwise we don't see when the mind goes into a negative state. We only see it when it's already quite big and the action is already done and like this. So shamatha, to train in shamatha, just to have one object, put the mind on it, and then just bring it back every time it moves away. It has the great advantage is, one, it gives you some kind of well-being. This is why meditation is so popular at the moment, because that's what people want. We have come, I think, especially in Switzerland, we have come to with sensual pleasure, it's almost not possible to increase it anymore. So because we have so much, and then because it's not sensual pleasure that is giving us happiness, so then we look for something different. So we see something is still missing, even though I have everything I need, like in material thinking. So one thing is, it gives you a kind of well-being when the mind starts to settle, when the mind starts to calm down. But that's why many people do it, in order to get this kind of, because they're so stressed and so frustrated. But that's not really the purpose. The purpose of awareness is to see when the mind is going into a negative state. That is the purpose. And then you have this vigilance behind it that can correct. Yeah. So you have sati, you have the mind who sees, who knows what it's supposed to do. And then the vigilance who corrects behind, by using antidotes. Yeah. So that is the purpose. But anyway, I'm not saying, people should not meditate for the purpose of feeling peaceful, because if they feel peaceful, there's less chance for the negative emotions to arise. But it's training. That's all it is. It's like the same way as now we're seemingly naturally not aware. It's not nature. We're not naturally not aware. We are just trained not to be aware, because we're lost in thoughts. And our ego always wants something different. It wants to be entertained. It wants, food to work it. It loves to figure things out. But then the mind is not calm. So this is why we just train it. So we do it, let's say 15 minutes, okay? Because you all know how to do this. And because also in Bern, when we do shamatha or things like that, I don't say anything, because otherwise people don't meditate. They just listen until I said something, then they bring the mind back. It's like, and in the meantime you go and wander somewhere, and then so then when there's silence, it's like, then you'd see that you're not there, and then they train. So then they learn by themselves, because it has to become like this memory, like this sati, knowing that you want to be present. If it's trained, then it's there all the time. So, but if you don't, if you don't learn it by yourself, so it's very pleasant when somebody is leading the meditation, I know, because then you think, wow, that was a good meditation, because you got these instructions all the time. But I think I can leave you for 15 minutes to do this on your own. Yeah. So what is very important here also is the determination, like to really, why do I want to do this? So that we make the effort of bringing the mind back. So you do need a little bit of, you need to a little bit of pushing to bring it back. So it's not, being present and people relax. and think, okay, I'm present. It's not. This is why we give the mind an object, and then you have to push it back every time it goes. And you will see that making this effort, we're a bit afraid of making effort because we think it's tiring, but it's not actually. If we have a good motivation, we know why we do this, then actually making the effort and bringing the mind back, it gives you energy, yeah, unless you're not too tense like this. So it's a balance that you're the only one who can find out which is the right type of effort, the right amount of effort, and which is the right way of being relaxed. So when we say, it goes in steps in order to have a quiet mind. First, the mind has to be relaxed, then it becomes stable, and when it is stable, it becomes clear. So this is the three things that we want to do, and what we need to learn to relax is especially the body. That even though we think we are relaxed, but we have like small tension, especially in the face. So this is why it's good to do a body scan before, and we're not really moving to release these tensions. We are noticing these little ones by being aware of it. So you go through the whole body, and by noticing these little tensions that we hold, they relax by themselves, actually, almost. Yeah, so I would suggest that you do a body scan. There's a very nice, very simple method that's called CALM, CALM. So C is the chest, because when you do the whole body scan and nobody's leading you, me also, you get lost and you stop somewhere in the middle or something. So you go like chest, then you go arms, zoom, down the arms, then L, the legs, and M is, I think it's the mouth, because this is, we're holding a lot of tensions, but it's the whole face. So just remember that and go in these 4 steps so that you're not leaving anything out. And what you do is like, you go to these places, and by breathing in, you notice the body sensations, and by breathing out, you visualize that becoming open and vast and spacious. Yeah, open is a good way, because also when we say let go of tensions, let go is always this, I don't want. Opening up is like, for me, it's a good way, but maybe for you not. So this is also, there's so many different methods. So it's good for you to find out what works for you. So when you are, let's say, chest, so you're kind of this whole area here. When you breathe in, you notice the sensations. When you breathe out, you give it space. And then you go to the legs, to the arms, then to the face. And then you go to your usual meditation object, which is either the breath or the image of a Buddha, the nature of the mind, whatever. Okay? Is all clear, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, ask, Okay. Okay. So it's really helpful if you can do that every day a little bit. And then as it gets better, slowly increase. Because otherwise, whatever we learn, we just have it in the head. And then, because everything sounds pretty logical, what we learned, but then we're not able to do it. And then we start kind of doubting ourselves or our capacity, our ability to transform. So just basic awareness meditation is very much part of your spiritual journey, like both, like some studied, but also sitting. And it's Venerable Rene used, I think in one of the retreats in Sorens, he used a very nice example that, you know, people get discouraged because they don't have any results. They say, oh, I can't meditate, I'm distracted and all this. Yes, we are distracted. And then he said in a very nice way, it's like water. When you kind of pour water down a hill, then first it goes all over the place. But if you always pour it at the same place, slowly it starts to make a channel. And if you keep pouring it at the same place, like the channel becomes deeper and deeper and deeper, and all of a sudden, you know, the water doesn't go all over the place anymore. So it's exactly like this. If you do take the effort to bring the mind back when you really feel that it's gone, and you're not letting it just go wherever it wants to go, you're starting to create that channel. It's like a muscle you develop. Yeah. So then also, because some people then they say, well, but you know, I come to the group once a week. Well, I'm sorry to say, but that's not enough. I mean, here in the group you learn how to do it, and then at home you do it. But then if you only do it when somebody's there leading you, then again, you know, you don't sit down, and then it becomes a bit a habit like brushing your teeth. So that before you go out of the house, you sit for first maybe 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 20. And then you'll see something really changes, I think. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah. Then it becomes very, very natural. And then in order to be aware, you don't have to, you know, to see what's going on in the mind, you don't have to sit down anymore. Yeah. Or also when you think that nothing changes and I can't meditate and all this. This is from Tenzin Palmo, which I found very helpful also. That she said, then maybe your object that you're focusing on is too subtle and the mind kind of slips off all the time. So she said, take your body posture. Body is sitting, body is sitting, body is sitting, body is sitting. You know, to keep your mind there on the awareness, the knowing directly, unmistakably that the body is sitting. When it moves away, you come back to that. Then when you feel that the mind is quite stable on the body posture, then you move maybe to the breath. Because the breath is quite subtle. Yeah, and especially when your concentration kind of deepens, it gets more subtle and more subtle and more subtle. So try it out. If you think that you're hopeless and you know that is like can't do it, then change object. But then once you have found your object, then stay there also, you know. And this is why I'd like not to give too many instructions about meditation, because there is so many. And why is there so many? Because we're all a little bit different. So then if you know, one teacher says this, then the other one says that, and then you don't know what to do. So you try out, and then you find out what is helpful, and then you do that, isn't it? And also I'm a lousy meditator, so, you know, I'm not in a position to give you big advice on how to meditate. Venerable Rene, he is the one to ask these kind of things. Yeah, he is really amazing. I mean, he has but he also needs the karma to be able to do this, you know. And I don't know if you know Charles. Yeah, you must know Charles also. Charles from Vajrayogini. Yes. Venerable Charles. Mm-hmm. Oh, Charles. Yeah. The Bodhisattva in person. Charles. Okay, Charles. We call him Charles. Charles. But he is a Bodhisattva. And he is. I mean, he's a Bodhisattva in person. Where is he from? And he's French, and he looks like so weird, you know. I mean, it's like he's got these big ears, and yeah, because when you know him, it doesn't look weird anymore. When you first see him, and then he wears this funny hat sometimes, and he doesn't care, you know. He looks like a meditator, holes in his robes and all this. He doesn't care. Very thin. Huh? Very thin, yeah. And but wow, deep realizations. So, and because he did long retreats, yeah. Every second day or something. Now, but even before that, you know, he did in the Pyrenees, like in a hut without any heater and all this. He did like very long retreats.
His masala tea, I have to say.
Huh?
We always like take second, third, and 10th helping because this masala tea he makes is just the best.
Yeah.
And one time we asked Brother Mugendum because we don't know him personally, so we're like, do you know how he makes this tea? You know, and he's like, it's funny you say that because we've been like the monks have been, you know, helping him and kind of peeking in, trying to recreate this tea, trying to see what his recipe was, and he says he is doing so much preparations, like he's doing for days, cooking different substances together, whatever. And at the end, we even tried to do the same thing, and we couldn't recreate. And he thinks it's because of all the mantras he says while he's saying that.
I agree that so much. I'm very into tea.
Yeah.
So he says because of the prayers, he wants to pour all
Definitely.
the
His love. He pours his love into the
while
tea.
he's pouring it to you, he's already like, you know, saying the mantras, and the taste is amazing. I'm like, okay, if that's the blessing, then I will even more of that.
Anyway, so I don't have the karma to do long retreats. I get bored. I wait, count the days until it's finished. So it's not much point to go into long retreat like this. I mean, this His Holiness also said, you have to. You need a lot of positive karma to do that. So Charles, he asked me. He said, like, Anila, what about your retreats? I said, look, you know, this life I'm gathering the positive karma to do it in the next life, something like that. And he said, yeah, it's true. He said, if you don't have enough positive energy and you go even on top of a mountain and you sit there totally naked for 10 years, you come down to the valley and all you got is a cough. And then when people ask you, what have you realized? You go like, it's true, and His Holiness also, he gave us, we're a very small group, and you know, people were asking him, what's the best thing you can do with your life? Like, it was funny because it was after a 3 months Vajrasattva retreat, and they usually have an audience with His Holiness. And so they can ask questions and you write them down. So they all already had their ticket to go back to the West. They already knew what to do with their life, but they asked this question: what's the best thing to do with your life? So he said, whoa, the best thing to do, you give everything away that you own and you go to a cave and you go and sit there until you're enlightened. And people's faces went like, huh? And then he started laughing and he said, but, if you don't have enough positive energy and you do that, he said, then nothing will happen. It's total waste of time. And he said, and so if you have the energy or the positive karma to do that, and this is where the master comes in, because the master would check whether that is like the guru, whether that's okay or not. Because once you have advice from your guru, coming back to the guru, why the guru is so important, to do these things, even if like terrible hindrances arise, because they will arise. You will almost think you're going crazy and you get sick and all this. But if your guru told you to do this, you have the confidence to continue and to cut through these difficulties. If you decide that you want to do this, you know, when these things arise, you go, probably is not the right thing to do. And then you stop. And then you get the habit of starting things and not finishing them. Yeah. So then he said, well, if you have enough good karma, positive energy to do that, then it's very good to do. If you don't have to, if you yourself, you can't do it, then it's good to learn about these things and then maybe teach others how to do that and who have the karma to do it, like a trainer in a way, you know, like it's same sports, like the trainers are not able to do the things that the people that train are doing. And then he said, and if you don't have enough positive energy for that, then just lead a life where you don't harm each other and or harm others. And if you can, then instead of going for a beach holiday, then do retreat, like for 3 weeks or something like that.
But some is the probably you guys read the book by Harari, who wrote The Future of Mankind, the History of Mankind. In the second book, he dedicated the entire chapter to meditation. The last chapter, he dedicated the whole book to his guru. He wrote at the beginning, he went to India 2 months a year, completely retreat. And he said without those meditation, with his guru, he would have never been able to write
to cut
these two
through
books.
it.
He could see the past, he could see the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this is very important that you can cry out to somebody when you are alone in your retreat, at least somebody that you trust. Yeah, that's very. And then
person like he died already, but he did 18 years with him.
Yeah, so if you think you have the karma to do long retreats, then by all means, but check with your guru. That's always good to do. And even if you think you can't do it, then if he says it's okay, you go, then I think that's also then is a good thing to do. And for that, you need confidence, you need trust. So you need to know the person. Yeah, not just the feeling of like this, but really go to his teachings, follow his advice, listen to what he says. Maybe, things like that. Okay, so we are still with the karma. So maybe we do a little recap of what we did yesterday. So karma means action. Okay, so that it's not the result and all this. So you do an action with your body, speech, or with your mind that creates a karmic seed, which then is deposited on your mind stream like a potential. And then when the right conditions come together for it to ripen, then it will ripen as happiness or unhappiness. So what is very important also to know is that our sensations are ripening of karma. Yeah. When I drink this tea, it creates a very pleasant experience, but it's not because of the tea. The tea is not the cause. The tea is just the condition. But it looks as if the tea is the cause. And this is what we think. And this is then when we don't even examine all this. And this is why we try to find the same sensation in the same object again and again and again, and it doesn't work. Yeah, because it's not always the same kind of karmic imprint that is ripening. And this is why we have to change again and again and again and again. And this is why in Switzerland, where we have so many possibilities, this is why we have so much choice in the shops also. Yeah, because if it would be only one thing, if it would be the tea, okay, let's say tea is a bit difficult because it's been made with different things. But let's say if, you go to the same baker, bread also doesn't work because bread is always good because it's kind of a necessity. But some cakes or something like that, I don't know, we need to change those so that it still creates the same kind of wow feeling, because good is not good enough. It needs to be like wow. So in order for it to become vow, there needs to be some craving, which is suffering, and then that suffering can be relieved by something that you get from outside, and then for a short while, the craving, the irritation of the craving is gone. But then it starts again because it's not the cake that is creating that sensation as pleasant. It is karma, like it's a karmic imprint ripening. But it looks as if it's the outside object. But if it would be the outside object, what would be the logical reasoning behind it? If it's that cake that when you eat it, you go like, wow, then the logical reasoning behind it would be
every time you have a cake, you have the same feeling.
Yeah, the same cake would be good enough. We don't need to change the cakes all the time. We can just eat the same thing all the time. So with the bread, of course, in Switzerland also there's bread where you go, wow. Yeah, but like if it's bread in India, which is always the same bread like every day, like these round Tibetan breads. And they're good and you're happy and you're content, but you're not going like, wow. Yeah, but then you can eat the same thing every day. When your mind goes, wow, because it totally exaggerates the whole thing, you get fed up with that cake if you eat it every day. Because that's not, because your fantasy is doing something different. Do you understand what I mean? Christian?
How does the sensation So you say it's a karmic imprint, the sensation that you have while you're having the tea or while you're having the...
That's
cake.
what they say. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant
Yeah.
is a ripening of a karmic imprint. If it's pleasant, it's a ripening of a positive karmic imprint. If it's unpleasant, it's a ripening of a negative karmic imprint.
What are the causes and conditions for you to have that, let's say, with that wow feeling? Is it...
Well, probably a very good, a big positive action.
But if you love art, if you go to a museum, if you see something like really touches you, go wow. But then if you see every day, you feel less. But then you see something new. Then so you mean behind this is not that piece of art?
No.
Or like fall in love.
That's the condition.
It's not a person.
You need an object. That's the condition. The piece of art, the cake, the person. That is the condition for this karmic imprint to ripen.
So, sorry, Grace, maybe you want to continue. You have a question?
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead with the
Like
cake, maybe
to,
easier.
To my case,
Yeah.
I'm still confused. So, what you're saying is, I have a positive sensation. I have a, or let's say, a Grace case. I have a positive sensation with a piece of
Okay,
art.
let's say pleasant is better.
Anyways,
Yeah.
it would be a wow moment. So you're saying it's a karmic imprint ripening from a totally different positive action that I've done.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not really connected to the object or...
No, and the more you go wow and you think that the pleasant feeling is coming from the cake, the more refined cakes you need and the less you are really satisfied and happy. Because it's a wrong view. Yeah. So they say it's like thinking that the pleasure is coming from the object is like seeing a Fata Morgana. I don't know, have you seen Fata Morganas in the desert? Like Luftspiegelungen, like a mirage. It looks totally like water.
Yeah.
If you don't know that this is not water, you would run. You're thirsty and you run. And you get there and there's nothing. Yeah. But then the thirst increases, like the thirst for these wow feelings kind of increases. So then you run again and again and again and again. Every time there's disappointment and the thirst increases. So you get less and less and less satisfaction when you're looking for satisfaction in the object. And because there's more and more attachment. And attachment is a negative emotion. Yeah.
But if the cake
So this is why when we have the possibility, like here in Switzerland, the things become more extraordinary and more extraordinary and more extraordinary. There's less and less satisfaction, isn't it? Like if you look at children, like with their toys, the joy of getting it, and then how long does it last? And then next one, and we're still like the children, yeah?
But then...
If you look with the food also, just a second, if you look with the food, when you eat it, instead of just enjoying it, you go like, how did you make this? What's the recipe? Yeah, instead of just enjoying it, because you want to repeat. Because somehow on a subtle level, you already know it's not going to give me lasting satisfaction, because that's what we want. We want lasting satisfaction. We don't want these short moments where we have to change. The yearning that we have is for lasting happiness, and we're looking in the wrong place.
But then it feels a bit like, the cause for having this wow sensation or this great sensation, the cause is actually a good deed or
Positive action.
You've done, which is actually a good thing, right? Why would karma be so mean as to give you a really positive sensation that will delude you? You know what I mean?
It's not the karma that is giving you, it's our own views that are doing that. It's our own mind. Karma is not something outside. It's not created. There's nobody dictating and seeing and looking.
So it's a natural law. Yeah.
It's a natural law. It's a natural law. And we can see it with the satisfaction.
Because I think
The more people have, the more people consume, the less content they are.
Because I think the problem for us is that we cannot imagine having pleasure or enjoyment without attachment. They're so intertwined.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Like you said. So that's why what you are saying, Christian. So, like the pleasure, like the lamas always say, right? And they always say that the pleasure, the happiness, is not the problem in the whole thing. The problem is our attachment.
The problem is the attachment, and especially the thinking that the pleasant feeling comes from the object. So we go and find it in the object again and again and again. While we're doing this, we're burning up our positive karma. That's what we're doing for nothing, basically, for fleeting moments. And sense pleasures, sense pleasures, the moment you stop having contact with the object, it's finished. The memory can't give you anything. And also, we're not really looking for wow feelings. This is it, we want, like the deluded beings that we are, we think that's it, the wow feeling. What you want to have is peace of mind. This is why you practice. Not going around wow, wow, wow all the time. Yeah. But because we have become so discontent, we need big stuff to stimulate us, and then it's the wow feeling. Why is it the wow feeling? Because the irritation of not having these kind of things is so big that when you get something that kind of fits to give you a good feeling, then the relief from the irritation is quite big. Yeah, you see, following our attachments is like they say, I have a few examples which are really horrible. I mean, some are okay, the others are really horrible. One of them is like drinking salt water. Yeah. So we want satisfaction. I mean, let's say, can we agree on this, that we want to be content? We want to be happy. We want satisfaction. Yesterday you said, what is happiness? You said peace of mind, I think. Mm-hmm. I think it was you. Okay. So we want peace of mind. So we're trying to find it in the objects in a way, and they're not there. So we consume a lot of objects. So it's like drinking salt water. Yeah, kind of like the wetness of the pleasant feeling, like the wetness of the water is going down our throat, but at the same time you get thirstier and thirstier and thirstier. Or they say it's like scratching a wound that is itching. So if you have a wound that itches, you scratch, it's pleasant. When something itches and you scratch, it's very pleasant. But what happens at the same time? The wound gets bigger, meaning your need is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Then things need to be more extraordinary and more extraordinary and more extraordinary. I don't want to say so much about art, because art has messages in it that some people see them and some other people don't, But the messages kind of are not coming from the piece of art. They're really coming from us, because I have a friend and she has a modern art gallery, and in her house, I don't know if that thing is worth 3 million or if she's just supporting a young artist so that he could sell his thing. I have no idea. Once you know who it is, like if it is Giacometti, for me it still looks like but then I know it's worth a few millions, then becomes different. So when did it change? The thing itself didn't change. Yeah. So this is why with the art, I don't want to, because people feel it's very touchy subject, this whole thing. But art, I mean, we all know the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, not in the piece there. Yeah. We are projecting into it.
More like two things meet. If the cake is really horrible, you're not going to see.
There is no horrible cake. A fly would love that cake. A dog maybe would love that cake. There is no real horrible cake from there. The horrible cake is only from here, and the beautiful and wonderful cake is also from here. Cheese is a very good example. Wow, my father, for him, cheese was paradise. I hate it. I can't eat it. It makes me vomit. This was the biggest deception for my dad. That his daughter that he loves so much, he cannot share the pleasure of eating cheese with me, and he forced me to eat it because he thought I don't like it because I never tasted it. So I was, he's sitting in front of me, and I was going like, and he was going, it's nice, and I'm sorry, Dad. It's like I can't eat it. Every time I came home, even as a grown up, he said, "You still don't like cheese?" I said, "No, sorry, I don't." But it can change. it can really change. That kind of karma cannot. This is why it's not permanent. It can change. Maybe then through the purification practices, or I don't know. Because usually when somebody would give me a sandwich, and even there's vegetables and all this, a slight sliver of cheese, I would bite in it. I wouldn't even know it's cheese, and I would immediately spit it out. I couldn't do otherwise. It was so strong. And then somebody also, I was somewhere and it was a monastery, and you have to eat what's on the plate. It's like, no way that you can say I don't like it. So I ate it and it was okay. It's not I would run after it, but it was okay. I could eat it. So that also changes. Yeah. So yeah, positive, like pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings. Like they say, even if you're on a hot day, a cool breeze, that is the result of some positive karma. This is how extreme they go with this. But it's not that the tea has nothing to do with it, okay? The coming together of your mind and your positive imprint with the tea, it needs a base, it needs a condition, that kind of gives the pleasant sensation. Because if it would be the tea, only the tea, you could drink the same tea all the time, same cake, same this, same that, same, yeah? Do you see what I mean?
So the condition would be the fact that I've done something good in the past.
Not the cause. The substantial cause for the pleasant feeling. The tea is the condition.
Okay.
So one makes a difference between like a substantial cause,
yeah,
and which is the karmic imprint, and then the condition which makes it ripen. Because you can have these imprints of pleasant feelings in you, but then there's no condition that ripens. Or one can say also, like, you see, a pleasant, also, it's not the pleasant feeling which is the problem, nor the unpleasant feeling. It's not that a pleasant feeling naturally leads to more attachment. It only leads to more attachment if you don't know how this works. A pleasant feeling can also lead to gratitude, for example. Wow, somebody made this cake. Wow, somebody made this tea. How wonderful. But then you're not going to look, you don't need to go and look for the next one. You're just happy. Yeah. Whereas with the wow feelings, it's like it's leading you to the next one. In German, when you take the word reizend, yeah, you all know the word reizend, is like kind of lovely, or, yeah, you know? Everybody? Okay. How would you translate? It's better than lovely, it's kind of. But the root is reiz, okay? Like when you say to somebody, oh, du bist so reizend.
Exciting.
Huh?
I would probably use exciting.
Yeah. Okay, it only works in German.
Exciting.
thrilling.
Thrilling, maybe?
Stimulating, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe stimulating, something like that. But it's a very nice word. If you say to somebody, wow, du bist reizend. Yeah, but it's not a nice word at all if you look at it. Because something gets irritated. And the word reiz, you're irritated. And if you don't get that thing that is reizend, dann bist du gereizt. It says exactly the process. If you have attachment and you imply that, this person is so lovely and so exciting and so stimulating, you don't get it, or that the object, you get irritated. Yeah, and it's the same word.
Maybe something like there's a person that you really look up to, and then they don't. Then they show you that they don't like you.
Uh-huh.
I think that this really kind of tears out your heart.
Also, yeah.
So someone you respect, and
yeah.
they kind of dismiss you completely.
Yeah. Yeah, or somebody that you projected qualities on that they don't have. Also, that's also very. That's also not very good, because then the falling down is much bigger than if you see that person in a kind of just normal light. So this is good to know, that our pleasant and unpleasant sensations are a ripening of karma. This is why, for some people this is wonderful, and for other people this is horrible. Because if it would be just the object, then everybody would feel the same. And also how this changes is also the relationship, how we left it off. Anybody has had food poisoning? Okay. So what happens? You eat the food, you think it's delicious, that's why you eat it. Then you get sick, you have to vomit, and it's really horrible. I mean, I felt like if somebody would have said, you want to die, I would have said yes. It's really horrible, the way you feel sick. And then when you think about the food, what happens? Somebody saw you eating the food, and then maybe a week later they cook the same thing, or they come and they put it in front of you and say, look, I saw you eating that food, you must like it. Here it is. Do you want to eat it? What happens? No way. No way. Just by looking at it, you go like, ah! Just by thinking about it, you go like, ah. So it's good to see that it cannot be the object. It has to be your approach towards it. So like they say, there's no objective existence. We just project it. Is okay? No, yeah. It's okay?
Processing.
Yeah. You know, I think with art, also especially with modern art, maybe if you are painting yourself, then at least you know that it's very difficult to create that thing. If you're not painting, then you have no clue. But if I see art where I can recognize what it is, then I can go like, oh wow, you know what is amazing. What, like Dürer, for example. Yeah, the way what he did with the, when did he live? 300-400 years ago? I don't know so much. You know Albert Dürer.
Yes.
The drawings that he made, you know, his rabbit there, and it's amazing. Then I go like, wow, yeah, because I can see the skills. But if I just see a bit of paint splattered somewhere, then I go like, but this is, I don't know. I'm not saying it's no good. I'm not saying I'm right, you know, that people are totally deluded when they pay millions of dollars for that painting there. So, you know, I think yesterday I said, no, maybe I was in the South Pacific, not because, but anyway, we had a painting of Gauguin in our schoolroom, and I was fascinated by it. I don't know why, because usually I'm not so much into paintings. And he was living in Tahiti, and Jacques Brel also. So those are two persons that I really admired. Yeah, he also a big smile. You say the word Jacques Brel, then and both of them they died in the Marquise. So I wanted to go and see their graves, which I did. Yeah, it took me 3 months to get there. Then I was standing in front of the grave, and I thought, now what? but this is good, you know. This is really good to experience and say, okay, now what?
It's like we went to the moon, and the moon is the most romantic symbol for us.
Yeah.
The moon was just a bunch of cold rock.
That's it. No, it was nice. I mean, it's two graves, and it was like on Gauguin's grave there was a wreath of his family, kind of apologizing that they didn't know his drive to go there and to paint, because he was half mad. He had to paint. He couldn't do otherwise. He starved half to death and all these kind of things. But anyway, so yeah, that's why I was in the South Pacific, to see Paul Gauguin's grave, which I did.
And it changed your life forever.
It did. It did, because in order to get there, you need a long time. In order to get out of it, you need a long time, and there's nothing to do. You know, walking around the island is like 3 hours. The ship only comes once a month.
Wow.
There's no TV, there's no radio, there's nothing. You have some books with you. Once they're read. So then you just have to settle down somehow. So
You paint.
no, I can't draw. I have absolutely no talent for doing that.
On the same island that Jacques Brel and
Yeah,
Gauguin died?
in
Same
fact,
island?
in Hiva-Oa.
Hiva-Oa.
Yeah, on the same graveyard, in the same spot. Okay, so the karmic result, like sensations, is that. So then we talked about 4 characteristics of karma. Do you remember? Karma is
Definite.
very good. Karma is definite, meaning that a positive action will bring some pleasant results, and a negative action will bring some negative results. And then the second one is, doesn't have to be in a certain order. You can just say,
complete?
Huh?
Complete?
Complete. No, this is where these are the 4 factors for an action to be complete. Yeah, it's okay.
What you have not treated, you cannot experience.
You cannot experience this. Why hope and fear, no point. Yeah. By hoping for a good result and then you get engaged in creating the causes for the good result, that's okay. So, it's not, doesn't mean you have to become hopeless. Next one.
Is there like one buzzword for that?
One.
Like definite. Is there also for this point what you have not created?
Not really, I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Increases?
It increases, exactly, meaning from small action you can get a big result. And the 4th one?
Is never lost.
Huh?
Is never lost.
Exactly, karma is never lost, okay? So these are the 4 characteristics of when they talk about karmic imprints or when they talk about karma. Then for an action to be complete...
Intention?
Huh?
First one, intention.
Intention, meaning your mind state, basically. Because when we read intention, we think it's like I have to consciously think now I'm going to harm grace. No, it's more the affliction that goes with it. And it also, I think I did it here a little bit more detailed, like you identify the object, you have the motivation for doing it, and then the affliction or the mental state. The affliction is for the negative karma. The mental state that goes with it. You can do something totally unskillful, but out of love or out of compassion. Yeah, you can do something that is seemingly very good and very skillful, but it's totally out of attachment. Let's say, one of these pharmaceutical places where they make lots of pills and all of a sudden they found out, too many side effects here, so what shall we do with them? And then you think, okay, we're going to build a hospital in Africa, but then they have to buy these pills. So building a hospital in Africa is very good. It's a bit extreme what I'm saying. Yeah? I'm not saying that these places are doing these things. So building a hospital in Africa is a very positive action, but the motivation behind it is really rotten. Yeah, or you have, I don't know, there's an old woman and she needs some help and you help her, and at the same time you slip your hand into your purse and you steal her money or something like that. Yeah, so that gives mixed karma, by the way. So you would be, for example, very rich, but you would be totally depressed about the whole thing or totally frightened, for example. Yeah. You see, I mean, the examples I can give you, because karma goes into the category of most hidden phenomena. I know it would be nice to have a list, when you do this, then this happens and all this, but because there's so many factors that go with it that you can just maybe figure out more or less everything that comes together and then what it will make. Yeah, there is no real, I mean, there is a list of karmic results, but we will maybe go through them afterwards. I don't know if I put it here. No, not really. Yeah.
I was just thinking about the characteristics about how karma increases, and I can see now how purification can have an impact, because for a seed to ripen, you need the condition. Yes?
Yeah.
And the condition is something random. I mean, it will eventually happen, but since you have infinite life, for sure the condition is going to come up once.
Right.
It's going to come up.
Yeah.
But in a way, the longer it takes to come up, the more you're punished, because in the meantime, your karma increases.
Exactly.
But the speed of increase, I can see how purification can affect the speed of increase.
Or you can
the
even...
more purification you do, the less it increases.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't completely erase it.
Yeah, that is your view on it, so I accept that view, but I don't have to share it, do I?
So you think
I
that
don't
in
know.
case of purification, the characteristic karma is never lost, doesn't apply? Because if you purify, then it dissipates, or you transform it into something else.
Well, okay, what would you say, like you have a seed and it gets burned, so the potential of bringing a plant is totally finished.
So in that case,
but something is
lost,
still
so
there, so the seed is still there, but it will not bring a result. So what that could mean also, what remains, not necessarily that the suffering comes and you don't suffer, but it veils your mind to be omniscient.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
You know, a Buddha's mind is omniscient.
Yeah.
So they talk about hindrances for liberation and hindrances for omniscience.
Mm-hmm.
So the hindrances for liberation is our kleshas, our negative emotions, especially wrong view of I, me, existing from its own side. Once you have eliminated them, then you have eliminated the hindrances for liberation. So you're not going to be reborn anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But then you still have what is called these very subtle imprints that are just really now, when they talk about imprints, if you walk in the sand, yeah, so the karmic imprint would be your foot, but then the foot is out, but the imprint is still there. That can be something remaining from the burnt seed. So then you practice the 6 perfections in order to get rid of those things, you know, on the 10 bodhisattva levels.
But your view, Ani Losang, is that if you are purifying, then you definitely don't at all experience the result, or you don't.
Well, you know, I mean, when purification really happens is when you start to really understand emptiness. Yeah. Before that, we kind of damage these seeds a little bit, but I don't know whether we totally eradicate them. I'm not sure, because you don't feel them. This is the problem about the purification, you know. And this is also what I wrote in René's chat there, because why people are not so interested in purification, because at one point, because now we have so much positive karma ripening. Yeah, so we're not afraid. We think, well, why should I do these things? I'm okay. And we don't feel the ones that are still on our mind stream, because they're latent. They don't give an effect yet. They're not kind of making us heavy and sad and depressed or whatever. When we are heavy and sad and depressed, it's karma ripening.
I think with purification, personally, it's hard because it's not so logical for our Westerners. It's
because we don't feel it. That's why.
We don't feel it, and I think it's difficult to understand the cause and effect there, because you did something horrible, then you recite mantras. It's a little bit like going to confession, then reciting a bunch of prayers, and then somehow it goes away. And I think it's hard to see
that's the problem, because we don't understand that this is a most hidden phenomena that we need trust. Right. That's all we need. You cannot figure it out with a normal, ordinary human mind. You cannot figure out how that works. Yet still we do things. For example, there is a liquid which is called vaccine. I have no clue what's inside. There's a virus which I've never seen. But what do? I go and get the shot. Because I'm afraid. We're not afraid enough to be reborn in a lower state. This is why they teach karma, then Lama Zopa, in Kopan, you know, for 3 weeks, the sufferings of the lower states, and then refuge. I tell you, when I heard about karma first time in Kopan, in the 1 month course, so Kirti Tsenshab Rinpoche, which then he became my teacher, he was teaching like what is karma, and he was teaching the same day the results. I went home, I went back to the room, and I tried to sleep, and I went like, shit, you know, this kind of list here of these 10 things, I've done all of it. And Rinpoche had already taught the results, and I've done them with lots of, all 4 factors present, and I thought I'm going to end up in hell. I really believed it, that this is going to happen, because I have all these imprints. So I didn't sleep. Then next morning I went to see somebody who I thought she was an experienced student. And she was this kind of, people always with the mala and always reciting mantras and always, haven't done my practices yet, I haven't done my break. So I went to see her and said, oh, what do you think? If I looked at this list and I've done all of it. And she said, yes, and you're going down to hell. And I was like, ah! And then Rinpoche taught about purification. I tell you, I was ready. And I signed up for the 3 months Bodhisattva retreat. Because at the beginning of the course, I saw it, 3 months retreat. Yeah, it's a total beginning. I thought somebody must be really crazy to put themselves 3 months into retreat. And then at the end, or after the karma thing, I signed up for it.
And
Because I had the occasion. This is the thing. I wasn't like totally convinced or whatever, but I had fear. I was afraid. And I thought, okay, if this is true, I have the money to do the retreat. I have the time to do the retreat. It's happening in India. You wanted to go to India anyway because it was only at Tushita at that time. So sign up. Yeah. So I had the occasion to do it, I had the money. I didn't have to go back to the West. So I had to think like, just in case, I better do this retreat.
And did you feel any? Because I never done that retreat. I'd love to do it sometime actually.
Yeah. Did I feel anything? Yeah.
Did you have a feeling like did you have a feeling that you purified some of this negative karma that you created?
Definitely. You come out of there and you see everything in a different way. Same as if you do if you do a longer Vipassana retreat or you do Nunes or something like that. Then everything becomes very delicious. Everything looks very good. Everything is very delicious when you come out of a retreat. Everything is very fresh. Then you start to see, the mind is much cleaner. You feel like you've cleaned your mind. People who totally got on your nerve before, they don't bother you anymore. You actually have compassion for them for being such a pain in the neck. But then it doesn't last very long. This is the problem. It fades away. But yeah, you definitely feel a thing. But during the retreat, some people go through hell. I was very blissful and I thought, wow, I'm doing much better than all the others. Until somebody said, you didn't burn enough karma there, because you were in such blissful state. I was totally blissful these 3 months. But I think it was also the situation, because I had been between Kopan, November, and the retreat in June. I had been in Land of Medicine Buddha to help kind of sprucing it up and to help opening it. And we were all a bunch of volunteers. Nobody knew what they were doing. And we were like, somebody starts painting the kitchen, then somebody else paints there, and then you see, it's not the same color. And we did so much work for nothing because nobody knew, we just had all good intentions, but no wisdom, no coordination, and California on top of it. It's like, so it was quite stressful. And we didn't have anybody to lead us also. So it was very stressful. And then coming to the Vajrasattva retreat and just 4 times a day, sit on your cushion, recite the mantra, have nothing to decide, just go with the schedule, was like heaven. Yeah, because the other stuff was really hard work. Whereas the other people came from holiday, like from traveling in Asia, where you can get up when you want, you can do what you want, and then 3 months, every day. You start at 5:30, I think, no Sunday, 4 sessions a day. It's like, and it's monsoon, everything gets moldy, it's wet, the food is horrible. It's like, yeah.
Sounds great, we're so sold on it.
It's great. So I had a very blissful time, which is, I see, because then I did other retreats alone, and I had really difficult time. So actually having a difficult time in a retreat brings much more benefit, because you strengthen your courage and your determination to finish it and to go through it. When you have a very blissful time, you don't want to come out of it. But both is okay. You cannot, how to say, sturen. You can't direct it. Because whatever comes, yeah.
Sounds like you can't lose either.
You
can't lose either.
You can't lose. No.
You'll get benefits of it.
If it's blissful, it's blissful. And it's like positive karma ripening. And this is, if I go this way, then it will be much longer. And what was funny also, because I had fallen in love with somebody who was on the retreat. But also I didn't know, shall I, continue with the practice? Well, I didn't know that I was becoming a nun then, but still I didn't really want to start a relationship because I knew how it starts and the middle of it and then the end. And so it was just very pleasant to look at him without wanting to possess him. Every time I saw him, because we were in silence, coming from far, I felt happy. And one day I was walking and I thought, one day you will have this feeling for all beings. And I thought like, wow. Yeah, this is what I want. Somebody come, you see somebody and you're happy to see them. This is what the Dalai Lama does. This is what Lama Zopa does. They do this in a very natural way. Whomever they see, they're happy.
They're happy all the time.
Yeah. And this is the result of believing in these things and doing these things. So, of course, I was very lucky to be in Dharamsala for almost 20 years and have these people, ordinary people, also ordinary monks and nuns in front of me, having had terrible hardships with, being invaded by the Chinese army and being tortured and all this, having absolutely no hate and being happy, being able to let that behind them. Then I found that very inspiring. And then, I also have doubts and all this. But then when I had doubts, sometimes I thought, but this is what the Dalai Lama believes and does. So who are you to say this is not working? You think you're more smart than he is? And then I just did. And this is it, you only feel it or notice it when you start doing it. This is what I'm saying. I know that purification works. How it works, I have no idea. But anyway, you need also factors to purify, not just saying mantras. Just saying mantras is not enough. So we better go there.
I think we need to understand what do we mean by purification, because we agree that karma is a natural law of conventional reality, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we have a body mind, as long as we have a body, how can this natural law be completely purified? So yes, the mind maybe so the Buddha mind won't experience the
yeah.
But the body will has to experience this conventional law because it's a natural
Of course,
law.
if you are born in a human body, the Dalai Lama will also die. Lama Zopa will also die, even if they're Buddhas.
Right. So
but they take on human bodies not because of their karma and attachment to having a human body. They take on this human body out of compassion so that we can have contact with them.
Absolutely, I agree. But since they take on the human body, they cannot completely erase. It's just like the Buddha.
But then it's not suffering. For them, dying is not suffering.
Oh, absolutely, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it's not possible to completely erase.
But
karma.
here it talks, you purify suffering.
Yes, correct.
So my teacher died of liver cancer. He didn't suffer at all.
Absolutely, yeah, that's exactly what I believe too. You purify the suffering, but the consequence still happens.
Of course.
Okay, then we agree.
But also, I think him dying of liver cancer is not necessarily a result of negative karma. I mean, they have to die somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're human, they have a human body.
Right.
Yeah.
But assuming that it would have not been possible for him to not, assuming that dying of liver cancer was his karma, it would have not been possible for him not to die of liver cancer, no matter how much purification he did. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have, like, the nature of a human body is to be born and then to die, this you can't change with your karma. Right. But you can purify your karma and then not take on a human body.
Correct, yeah.
Then you won't die. Because you're not taking, you have this, this Sambhogakaya, this light body.
If a realized being, a Buddha, takes on a human body and dies of a liver cancer, that's not because of negative karma.
No, this is what I'm saying. Also, it was quite amazing. I thought he was really well. I went to see him. To say goodbye because I was going to America. He was going to Israel. And I came out of there and I said, wow, Rinpoche is so well. He was very skinny and he was very light and he used to kind of, when he talked, he used to bump like this. And his glasses were always like that. So he'd look at us like this. And maybe a month later, I get a phone call from the Israelis. Oh, we're sorry to tell you, Rinpoche has liver cancer and it's irreversible. It was during the Lebanon war that this happened. So I don't know if he did Tonglen or whatever. And then he thought he was going to the hospital with an upset stomach or something, and they find this liver cancer. And he was in Haifa, and the bombs were falling, and so I still have a photograph of him. They're all sitting in the shelter, and Rinpoche is like, they're very happy, and everybody around him like this. And the nurses and the doctors, whenever there was a bomb thing, they would go to his room and say, here we feel safe and we feel protected. Not Buddhist at all. And he never, every time we went to visit him or whatever, when he was just skin and bone. he would just push himself up to show us, look, I'm okay, you don't have to worry. And then at one point he said, I'm so happy that I have this sickness, because, with this, I can't eat anymore, I can't drink anymore. Then the body just withers away, like in the Kala Chakra Tantra. And, there's pictures of him offering, he saw these Pure Lands, there's pictures of him offering the mandala for hours. So that Alak, his attendant, had to kind of take his hands down. He would just sit there and look, and then... So, yeah, I mean, to see somebody die like this is so inspiring. Yeah, that this, a human mind with a human body, needing no painkillers, whatever. So this is why I'm doing these things also, because I had these examples to see with my own eyes. Now you just have to believe me or go and look at them yourself with your own eyes. There's such examples. I mean, it's amazing.
I think Geshe Rinpoche shared similar experiences with Geshe Lama Konchok.
Yeah.
Every day, Geshe Lama Konchok used to be a little bit harsh sometimes, or speak with harsh voice, but he said the closer he was to his death, the most happy aspect he was displaying, the more smiling, kind, loving, happy all the time.
Yeah. Like.
Amazing.
So it can also be our karma at one point to die like this if we continue the practice. So for an action to be complete, we set the intention. Yeah, you identify the object, the motivation, the affliction. Then you need an object. So if I tell this cup how ugly it is, it's okay, because I mean it's not totally okay, because you still create some imprints on your mind by being harsh. Yeah, but the action is not complete because the cup, I think, doesn't understand. Then you need to do the action, and the completion is you finish the action and you're kind of happy about it. So when these 4 factors are present, it becomes what is called complete. So it becomes what is called throwing karma, meaning it determines your next rebirth. And your next rebirth, me also, I think, I'm totally sure that I'll be reborn as a human somehow. But how can I be so sure, because every action I do is negative, because I do it with this view of me here and the real other there. So even the positive actions are negative somehow, flawed, because it's done with a wrong view, and wrong view leads to suffering. It doesn't lead to happiness, or the happiness we have is temporary, is fleeting. So.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I have many questions when it comes to karma.
Yeah. I'm just ask them, but I'm afraid I won't be able to answer them because I'm not a Buddha.
So throwing karma, so every action that is completed, or all of these 4 steps. So I mean, there are probably more than 1 million actions that you will do in your life.
Yes.
But each of these completed actions will give you throwing karma and determine your next lives. I mean, so you will accumulate more and more throwing karmas, and just by the numbers of it, there are so many that will never actualize or materialize in that new birth, right? Because only
there's more throwing karma than births.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So that's a good question.
What do you mean there's more than births? Your births will not finish. Don't worry.
I mean, just by the numbers of it, but just mathematically speaking.
Well, right? Mathematically speaking, we have been existing since beginningless times. Can you tell me how many lives you have had since beginningless times?
Yes, but you have, I mean, again, there could be, I don't know, let's say 1 billion completed actions that I will do in this life. And maybe in my next life I will do also another 1 billion completed actions.
Yeah.
But there's only one out of these, which could be, for example, I don't know, one day I will crush a bug with a very negative mind state that will determine one of my next lives.
Yeah.
But then there will be so many more.
Yeah.
Throwing karmas.
This is why we purify.
In my life, in the next lives, in the next lives.
This is why we purify. This morning, so we took precepts this morning, then we did the 35 Buddhas, and they say, just reciting the names of these 35 Buddhas kind of purifies eons of negative karma. If you do it with the 4 factors, which we'll come to. So you can, you can
When you
purify an incredible amount of negative karma, just like this, if you understand how it works. If you
Okay.
have the 4 factors present.
Okay,
You
but
don't
then
have to go one by one.
Then you purify all the negative ones. But
Yeah.
then, let's say there's still 400 million positive ones. I mean, so in the end, there will only be this one true karma that will determine your next lives, and so much
No,
more that
because
will
you
never materialize.
I don't know
in
if
your
they
next
will
life.
never materialize. Why would they never materialize?
Only
Why?
in a different way. They will just materialize in a different way.
Well, if but again, don't forget about emptiness. This whole thing is like, because even our positive karma is flawed, is not pure, because it's been done with the wrong view. This is what I'm saying. Well, this is just to learn that your life is more or less okay as a human being, and you can continue with your practices. Yeah, that's what it means. But then when you realize emptiness, then the whole thing is finished anyway. When you realize emptiness, then it's only when you start realizing emptiness that slowly you let go of you purify your negative emotions. Yeah. Here what we're concerned about is karmic imprints for lower rebirth. But it doesn't mean because you could be a Buddha, because I think that's what you're saying, I'm not sure. So you could be a Buddha, but you can't because you have still all these positive imprints to be a human.
No, I'm just trying to get my head around really this idea that there's this one action, your action completed, your foreign karma that will determine your next lives, and all these other actions completed will not determine the next life.
That
This is
we
just
carry
an idea
them.
that seems it's really unfamiliar to me.
That we carry them with us. But
The
also
question is, of all those throwing karma,
why is
this one and not that one?
Why is it that one where
it depends
I share
on
my
you.
pizza with-
Again, it depends on many factors. It depends on your mind state. When you die, which karmic imprint is being activated that throws you somewhere. So if you die with a lot of anger, it will be a hell state. If you die with a lot of attachment, this is why it's good dying people to keep them calm and peaceful and make them remember their positive actions, or like bring up their positive mind states so that they can activate a positive imprint. And then the negative ones in the next life, if again they have if they're exposed to these methods, then they can purify. But you need faith, you need trust in order to do it, or at least a kind of curiosity. Because otherwise, if we don't try this out, we are like people saying, "Oh, I wish I would know how this cake tastes, but I don't want to taste it before I know how it tastes." Yeah. So this is the problem. And how karma really works is only a fully enlightened being who can see that far and that deep. So I'm far from being enlightened, I'm afraid. Yeah. But you understand the principle. I mean, this is. Do you have? I mean, what we did or what we're doing. Can you see some benefit in knowing this?
Like Grace, I'm still processing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an interesting idea, so I'll take that with me for sure.
Okay. So when all factors are present, it becomes throwing karma that determines our next rebirth, and then the completing karma is what happens in that life. So you see, we have many imprints ripening all the time, yeah. And but at the same time, we create more imprints. I mean, Geshe Lama Konchok, Geshe Tekchok, he said we have oceans and oceans of karmic imprints with us, and then he says, then you do like purification practices. It's like taking a cup, trying to empty out the ocean, because many of the factors like the faith, the trust, and all this is missing. And then after 10 cups, you go like, I don't see anything. It's not working, and you stop. It's true, This is, we always want a result, and we want it quick. So maybe a bathtub is a better example. Like you have a bathtub that is stuck. And you don't have, you can't open the thing where the water goes down. So all you can do is take a cup. So you start to empty it out like this. And even after 4 cups, you don't see that something has changed, but you know that 4 cups are out. Yeah, so this is it. Okay, so the 10 non-virtuous actions, I mean, this is pretty clear, because especially the tree of body and the 4 of speech, because we see if it happens to us, we wouldn't be happy. So then we can say our consciousness knows that this is negative. So I think what we still have somehow in the head when we talk about karma is something external that is separate from our mind, that determines, that directs and that judges and that does. So because we grew up with this kind of view. So even if you're not like a believing Christian, so even I have that sometimes, when I do something that is really good, I think, I hope the Buddha saw me. So it's like, it's so deep, this whole thing about it's not my fault. Yeah, somebody is punishing me or something like that, but it's really not a punishing system. So then the 10 virtuous actions are the opposite from the negative ones, a conscious abstaining of any of the 10 negative actions. In that moment, the positive seed is created. Or also by taking vows, positive seeds are created as long as you're keeping the vows, and as long as you're holding vows, negative imprints get purified. So that's why it's so beneficial of holding vows, because it's like the washing machine. You just in the morning you take the vows, and then you put in the washing machine. You push the button. It takes half an hour to take these vows, and then during 24 hours it actually purifies negative karma. And then again, Christian, if you say, well, how do you know it works? I don't know if it works, but what can I lose? What's the danger for me of taking vows if I know that more or less I can keep them? Yeah, so it's very personal, this whole thing. You want to do it, you don't want to do it. It's like, So this is why I'm saying, I think this 3 months Vajrasattva retreat, I was curious if this is working also. And I had the time and I had the money and I was already in Asia, so it would have been stupid to go home. Okay, so then we have the 4 results. So from now it gets worse, Christian, because from one imprint, you get different results. So from this throwing karma, you get the next rebirth. Yeah. When the energy for the next rebirth is finished, you still have something that remains. So let's say you have, you're born a human, which is positive imprint, because you know that, yeah, like the 3 lower states would be a negative imprint. It's like hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals. This everybody knows that. Yeah. Positive imprint is like humans, demigods and gods, they say in the 6 realms of the desire realm. So you have the ripening result that is throwing you in the next rebirth, and then let's say you are a reborn human, which comes like that, finishes that existence in the lower state, which is very difficult, because as you are in the lower state, you create more negative karma, more negative mind states, because not that you're just sitting in the hells and go like, oh, but now my negative karma is ripening and then it will finish and then I come back up again. Is you will fight, and in the hungry ghost, there's a lot of attachment also. And I know it's very difficult for us to believe these things. So this is why we say like, whoa, but if I look at the human realm, I can see everything is there. That's true, but these are just residues of how we behave, tendencies. Yeah, because as a human, you can change. You can all of a sudden change your attitude. But if you're a hell being, you have to wait until you die to get rid of that suffering body. But I know it's like, as I said, Rinpoche Rinpoche told me not to insist with Westerners on the lower states. He said otherwise they start throwing stones at you. But Lama Zopa, he does. And also I think I was in the library at one point in Geshe Dawa. Somebody said, well, it's difficult for me to believe these things, and it sounds like Christianity, and I'm being punished and whatever. But if nobody has the karma to be reborn in the hells, there is no empty hells, because hell is in our mind. Yeah. When somebody is psychotic and thinks everybody is my enemy, everybody wants to poison me, and even the people who want to help them, they see them as their enemy, that is a kind of hell. So then we go like, oh yeah, hell beings are just in the mind, but humans, this is real, I am here. No, we are also just labeled. We're also not real, we think we are real. Yeah, and the same thing will happen when we're reborn in the hells. We will think that we are real, and this is why then this big suffering is coming about. That's the difficulty to understand. Yeah, that we go like, yeah, this is just created by the mind. Human state is not created by the mind. It's created by the mind also. Okay, so positive imprint, you're reborn as a human, and then you have the result which is similar to the action. That means you create the habit to repeat the action. That's the dangerous thing about the whole thing. You have a tendency, yeah. And then you have another, like in your human existence, you have negative karma ripening. That is the result which is similar to the experience, means the same thing happens to you or something similar. Again, it's not like mathematics. It's like you steal, you're being born poor. But you can be very happy about being poor, you know. So it's like, it's not as simple as it sounds, okay? And then you have the environmental result. That's the environment where one is reborn. So Switzerland, I would say, is environmental result is very, very positive. Yeah, so it comes from positive actions, because here you don't have a guarantee, but you have a lot of chances to be happy. You have a lot of conditions to be happy. Yeah. It doesn't mean that somebody born in Switzerland is happier than somebody born in Syria, for example. Yeah, so again, it depends on a lot of factors. Okay, so those are the 4 results from one imprint. There you go. It's much worse than you thought.
Can I still ask a question?
Sure.
Is there anything you can enlarge on the part whatever you do will also happen to you?
Whatever you do will.
I think it was the third number on the second.
The results similar to the cause.
Yeah.
With similar results to you.
Yeah.
Is there anything more you can say about that?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know.
Well, you say
it's not mathematical, but
yeah, but more or less, like if you're very generous, then in a next life, or maybe sometimes even in this life, but these imprints, they ripen very rarely in the same life, but they will ripen like next life or in 1,000 lives or whatever. So if you're very generous, it creates the energy, the potential that you will have in a very easy way. You will get money, like this lady with this gallery, with this modern art gallery. I mean, the way she makes money is amazing, and she doesn't even want to, in a way. So like she helps some young artists, all of a sudden they become famous. What she bought for 500 francs all of a sudden is worth 100,000. She bought an apartment and they said, well, it's too noisy here, so she bought another one and she sold it with 500,000 benefit.
You think that's common?
But she's also doing a lot of good things with her money. She's the person I talked about yesterday. Like she bought a ship for one German captain for the refugees in the Mediterranean. She has a school in Nepal with about 350 kids, and and helps Eritreans, and she's really so. Yeah, she has a lot of money, but she also gives it. So by giving it, she creates again the condition to be born in a situation where money comes very easy. If you're somebody working very hard and you lose your money or get stolen and all this, you put a lot of effort, but it never works. Means you have negative karma of stealing or being stingy, ripening like that. But it's not, I steal 100 francs from you, I will lose 100 francs later because karma is increasing. It depends on the conditions. Because positive karma can also be destroyed through anger, they say. Yeah, if you do a positive act, like an act of generosity, and then maybe the person turns against you or something like that, and you regret having done the action, then also the positive seeds get destroyed. Complicated, this whole thing. So all we can know is more or less, the framework, but how exactly it works is like.
I think Cyril was asking about that, but the fact that the karma is increasing, how does that play into it?
That one small action can give a big result if it lies for a long time on the mind stream. But it can also decrease when you purify it. Yeah, you can consciously work with these imprints.
So a positive seed, how will it increase or still?
If you have one little tiny seed and you put it in the ground, and it will give you a plant with many more seeds than just one seed.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it works.
So by multiplying. By multiplying.
By growing. By growing, because we can
seed.
also see, it's much easier to be positive or to be generous when not everything is stolen from you all the time. Like this tendency of repeating, we can see how that works also. Yeah. If people are very kind to you, then it's not a guarantee, but it's in general that you become a very kind person also. People are very generous with you, then you also want to give. Whereas people also, everybody's cheating you or stealing your stuff, then you start stealing or lying or whatever quite quickly also. Okay? This is how it is explained. Read it up in the Lam Rim, maybe then you get more answers. Yeah.
So far I haven't really looked into karma and everything, but
yeah. It's like it's a big topic. It's difficult to understand because it goes into the category of the most hidden phenomena. So this is why I was asking Christian, do you see something that is of benefit? Then take that. Sure. Take that, and the rest just for the moment leave it, because we cannot figure out. And the Buddha was very skillful in these things. Like when he saw that there's no point that I explain that because people will not be able to understand, he would say there's few questions he never answered. Like, for example, will there be an end to samsara? Will there not be an end to samsara? He never answered these questions. He said, this is not relevant for you. This doesn't help you to understand the noble truth of suffering. This doesn't help you to understand the noble truth of the causes of suffering. It doesn't help you to understand cessation, and it doesn't help you to understand the path. So you have to see, again, you use it as a mirror, and you have to see in what way can I use this so that it becomes helpful for me. Yeah, because again, from the church we know the 10 Commandments and all this. So then it's kind of as if somebody wants to make us afraid in order to control us. It sounds a bit like that, isn't it? But the Buddha doesn't say, if you do this, then you will be punished. He said, if you do this, then this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. So it's up to you. You're not the victim, and so you have a choice. So with this, the result similar to the action that you will be reborn, or you will have tendencies and habits. This is also good not to judge ourselves too much, because it's the same as with a seed. Yeah, if you have a seed that maybe for hundreds of years it didn't move, it didn't do anything, the moment you expose it to moisture and warmth, so it will move. Something will start to happen with that seed until the seed is dead. Yeah, so it's the same thing. You can, whatever is ripened already. If I'm born with only one arm, I can purify as much as I want. The arm will not grow back because that seed has ripened. Yeah, I can only purify things that haven't ripened yet. So when you see that you have habits and they're not very skillful, and you want to get rid of them, then it's also good to see that sometimes the karma is so strong that there's nothing I can do, but we should still try. You know, this is what Venerable Rubina always says. She says it is very difficult to help prisoners to really change because they have such little positive imprints. That's why they ended up in such a terrible situation. You see, we think that if somebody is in a difficult situation and we take them and we put them somewhere else in a good situation, that's it, they will be happy ever after. And when they're not, we're surprised. Yeah. We're surprised that it's not enough to take them from Africa and put them into Switzerland in a very nice, loving Swiss family as children. Then we're surprised that they come out like drug addicts and violent and all these kinds of things. We can't change the karma of other people. Yeah, but we should still try. This is also what I want to say. You know, because then if don't use it in a fatalistic way by saying, oh, well, if it's their karma to, you know, it's not their karma to help them, so I just leave it. So, yeah, we try. And by trying, you create, with a good intention, you create positive karma for you, because we are training in compassion and all this.
But couldn't it be that in some cases we do have some kind of karmic connection with somebody and they have the karma to be helped?
Yeah, this is why I'm saying you should still try. You should still try. But then we have big expectations that my action will help that person. And this is, so I did some social work in India, working in a, like helping somebody, helping the poor, the Adivasis in Madhya Pradesh. And I could see it there. I wasn't a Buddhist then yet. It would have helped a lot if I would have been a Buddhist. But I see sometimes you just, no matter how much you try and no matter how much you give conditions to these people, there's no way they can change. Yeah. Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, you know, if you bring a lot of stuff to poor people, if they don't have the karma to receive it, he says the water will get poisoned, or the food will get rotten, or it will get lost, or it will get stolen on the way. Yeah. But as you say, we should still try as much as we can. Do you have more questions on this? Because this afternoon we'll talk a little bit about the 4 opponent powers, how to purify, because you need 4 things to purify, and then we do the purification.
I thought that the text, The Wheel of Sharp Weapon, explains well this thing about you receive what the same experience. No?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite texts. But for people who don't know Buddhism well, it sounds like you're being punished. And, you know, and also because, you know, when you see, because, you know, the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, yeah, it's like, it says if you do this, this is happening to you now because you did this in the past. And then we forget that we were another person in the past. And then they feel guilty and they start, how could I have done things like this? I would never do things like this. But you have different conditions in this life. You're a different person, you know. And nobody becomes a kind of very violent person without any reason, without any, without any conditions and all this. But even then, you know, you can have people be growing up in a very loving and beautiful family and being very violent. I mean, if I look at myself, the way I led my life until I was 40 was just for my pleasure and as much as possible. I had the good karma to have enough money to buy all these things. And I never really cared much about others. Yeah, well, maybe I did. But anyway, not so much. So I was an alcoholic and I'm still alive. And I had I really had the good fortune to meet all these people, to have direct contact with all these people in Dharamsala for 20 years without planning it. It just happened. You know, the dream of so many Dharma practitioners. My brother died at 48. He was a very good person. He was very socially engaged. He always helped everybody. He didn't drink, and he died of liver cancer at 48. If there's only one life, and we're from the same family, I mean, I should have died of liver cancer, not him. You know, that I meet all these lamas and I have direct contact to all these people. I haven't created that karma from zero, you know, this life from 0 to 40. So it must be karma from past lives. I mean, that is how I explain it. And also, you know, sometimes, like it was Lodro Rinpoche at one point, he said, because one lady who was coming to his classes, she said, I'm going to take my husband with me. And the Rinpoche said, you know, not everybody has the karma to believe in these things. And to see the necessity of purifying and of doing these things. So René is a lot talking about purification the last few Wednesdays. You know, so it's somebody who is a totally fantastic meditator, is somebody who has shamatha, and who's somebody who talks a lot about the necessity of purification. Yeah, because why also we can't meditate? Because the mind is very agitated and goes here and there, because there's a lot of habitual imprints of attachment and aversion ripening while we try to sit and while we try to concentrate. So I don't know if you're familiar with the 35 Buddhas. If you sit every morning like for 10 or 20 minutes or something, and if you start doing the 35 Buddhas before, like the prostrations and reciting the names, you will see something changes in the quality of your meditation. Definitely. Yeah. Even if you just do it, it takes what, 20 minutes, something like that. Even you just do it for a short time, not doing like 100,000 in a big stage. I mean, the Kagyu tradition, before they embark in shamatha and all this, they do what is called the preliminary practices: 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 refuge, 100,000 mandala offerings, 100,000 Vajrasattva. Then they start seriously meditating. They do shamatha, then they do like special insight, and then they do deity yoga. Then they do Mahamudra.
We are much more relaxed.
Huh?
We are much more relaxed.
You're much more... I'm not so sure. The Gelugs, they have 5 more preliminaries. They do 100,000 Dorje Kadro, 100,000 Tsatsas, 100,000 water balls, 100,000 Samaya Vajras, and like that. So yeah, but also, you know, they had time to do these things. So some lamas really stress, you have to do the preliminaries before you start something. Some others say no. And it could be that we've done the preliminaries in past lives and now we can just continue with the Mahamudra. I don't know. You know, I have no idea. So, and this is, you know, this is the good thing I find about Buddhism, because we can discuss these things, but everything, because it's just relative level, right? Everything I say, you can say a yes, but, or everything you, because both are right. Usually when we discuss and we have 2 different points of view, both of them are right, because they're just different. Yeah, so this is what I like about Buddhism. There's not one thing, this is true, I am right, you are wrong. This is not, and this is why discussion is quite important also. And then we start to check, okay, instead of just swallowing whatever is being said, and the Buddha is encouraging us, hey, check what I said. Is that true for you? Because since it's not absolute truth, but it can be true for you, so you have to check. You're very silent today, Grace. Have I totally kind of overwhelmed you with saying that art is coming only from the mind?
I talked too much last night. I went to dinner. So
No,
this
it's
morning I
fine.
decided to be quiet.
It's absolutely not a problem. So is this like these kind of, this framework of karma, is this more or less clear? Is it clear?
More or less.
Huh?
More or less.
More or less. What questions would you have, Beatrice?
I don't know. There are a lot of informations now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I say something to Christian's question?
Mm-hmm.
I think if we come back to understanding that the self is illusion, since self is an illusion, so all this karma.
No, wait. Be careful when you say self is an illusion. No, really, you have to be careful with what you say.
What I'm saying is
A separate,
yeah.
independent, autonomous, unchanging self is an illusion.
What I want to say, when I say that, I mean life is, we have this body, we have this mind, we have a life force up there, and we are in eternal. We were always there. Well, here we will be always here in some form, different form. So what I'm because as you said yesterday, self is, it's tea I drink. Who made it? That goes too long. So what I'm saying is just life. Every life is life. We see, we divide everything as life because this virus made me think a lot about the existence of different lives. So all this karma, whatever we did, even from a science point of view, like physics, so the point you did, the seeds, and it manifests, and it's always like working with like time and space, but we can't see them. But it's like when we die, the life force leave this body, go somewhere. I don't know whether if I make sense to you at all. It's just like I think I don't feel it's like one thing manifests into a rebirth. Yes, in some ways, like we will be putting a different form, but that's never complete you, or this is also never complete me or he or her. I don't know.
Yeah, we're changing. We are changing all the time. We just have an illusion of that there's something permanent inside of this changing
we are
thing.
Here, but we are not only here. We are.
Well, whether I am really somewhere else, I might influence others, like when they, but I'm here.
For example, like the telepaths happen to me every day in every.
Huh?
For example, I have very strong telepaths.
Okay.
Extremely strong.
Yeah.
So I have friends in all different continents. So it happens so frequent. You cannot convince me like I'm only here. Like it's like it's just like after I'm 40 something, and it just doesn't convince me. It's just like
There we see the power of the mind. That we limit ourselves. But it doesn't mean you're there. Your mind is able to go there.
Yeah, the maybe also the life force. It's more than the mind to me.
The life force. What do you call the life force?
The mind is.
Yeah, we have different levels of communicating here. So
yeah,
I think.
It's a different language.
Yeah.
Because mind is still.
Mind is not the brain, okay?
We're not body.
Mind is not material.
We have something
no,
beyond that.
That Buddhism wouldn't say that we have something beyond. We have the mind at different levels. We have a very gross mind who needs the senses in order to experience something. Then we have a more subtle mind, which is the dreaming mind, or what you say, the telepathic mind, which doesn't need the senses in order to have experiences. And then we have the nature of the mind, which is the clear light, the ability to recognize things, clear and knowing, and that's it. But it's the same mind stream, but on different levels, like water, ice, and steam, for example.
I don't want to use the word soul and spirit. I use them very carefully, but what I want to say is close to that.
Yeah, no. Buddhism would say no. This is it, what Buddhism what the Buddha refuted. Because of course, at that time, what goes from life to life if there's nothing there that is permanent, So that's why a soul was invented. And then they call it Atman. So the Buddha would say, no, it doesn't exist. But it's different views.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like...
Because energy never disappears, it just transforms. Everything is energy, it doesn't disappear.
Even this cup has never been really created, nor will it disappear. It just transforms.
Yes.
On the material level.
Yes.
Yeah. Even a sheet of paper, you cannot destroy it completely. Yes. You can burn it, it will turn into ash and into heat, but it continues. There is this continuation. Yes. That's why there's no creator, because there's only continuation. That's why it's beginningless. And your mind state, like, the samsara, being reborn again and again and again under the influence of negative emotions, this you can transform. This compulsive being reborn, this you can stop.
Maybe give one example about the mind and the soul thing, because I'm a writer, so during the corona, one day I woke up in the morning, I wrote an article about the ecology of our planet before before this virus thing, and I talked to a lot of different scientists and all different kinds of creative people. So one morning I had because there were so much going on, and you think about life and death, and everything was slow and very mindful. I made a plate of fruits for myself. I sat there and eating, and I suddenly was thinking like, what is really life? Like, like we were two cells, then we came out, we were like tiny, and how did I become like now? And it's just like every day, the food we ate 100 tons of food every day, and they maintain us. And in some way, we are really, the body is alone from the Mother Earth. When people say Mother Earth, some people laugh because we're too disconnected with the nature. But the truth is, this body is just really alone from the Mother Earth.
It's the four elements.
Yeah, but but this body, if there's no breathing, because when my mom passed the last 2 weeks, I was with her every minute, and that experience changed me profoundly about life and the breathing, because there was nothing left of her except the breathing. She couldn't eat, she couldn't talk, she couldn't, and all I could feel was her. And when that was gone, then she was gone. So I realized life is one breath. Everybody knows conceptually, you read things you were a kid, but the knowledge to knowing is very different experience. So this body is alone, but without this breath, its power meat will collapse. But where did this come from? This didn't come from mind. The breathing, it didn't come from, right? It come from
the oxygen, you mean, or what do you mean?
It's oxygen, but like we said earlier, given the tea, when you make them differently, it tastes differently. So it's not just air.
The tea, no, it's like water and sugar.
No, as you were saying earlier, why the tea tastes so delicious.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I don't understand so well what you say. Are you saying there's some universal energy somewhere that influences things?
I think there's I feel this is like intuitive feeling. There's body, there's mind, there's something higher than that. That is.
I don't know. I can't say yes, I can't say no. I just don't know if there's something higher than that.
I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But clearly that's not what Buddha said.
Okay. But
I didn't want to say. You see, the thing is, what we don't realize is how we connected we are to each other. Like when you say the oxygen, which I need, it goes into my lungs. When is the oxygen, the outside oxygen, when does it become my body? The tea, when I drink it, when does it become part of my body? Is there a clear moment where you can say, okay, now it's turned into urine and this and that? There's no...
You didn't know, yeah, that's clear.
And this is how we are connected with each other.
Yeah, yes.
Like we're breathing the same air.
Yes, nothing is.
And if human beings would be a bit more into, because when you say you can stop eating, you can stop drinking, you can still survive for quite a while, but if there's no more oxygen, that's it, we're dead. And then so, we think, well, oxygen is here anyway. We don't realize that oxygen is coming from the plants.
Yeah.
But that's what we depend upon to survive, and then we cut them. I mean, if you realize that the first thing that we will die is when there's no more oxygen, but you say, oh, it's here. Why would I worry about not having enough? That's how we destroy the planet. And as you say, that's how we don't realize how we depend on Mother
Because
Earth.
we're disconnected with nature, and we're part of nature, so we disconnect with ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, just when you said the body, we make such a big deal about the body. It's made up of these 4 elements, the same as a tree and a plant and whatever. And we think like, wow, my body.
Just coming back maybe to what she was saying.
Maybe we should make a break, yeah?
Why can't the mental continuum be called the self? And why do you need to find something in order for something to exist? I mean, this argument in Buddhism where it says it doesn't exist because you can't find it. Well, that's a postulate. Why do you need to find something in order for it to exist? That's my first question. The second question is, why can the mental continuum be considered the self?
Well, there's some Buddhist school who call this the self.
Okay.
Like the even not just the mental continuum, combination of body and self, body and mind, that's the self. This is what they say. But then we don't think like this. This is the problem. You see, we still say my mind, my body. We still put this I, this self separate. So that is the important thing to see. That one does not exist. And actually with this whole thing of self, because the Western mind wants to see, okay, what is it? We only need to see what it is not. That's enough.
Correct. Yes, indeed.
That's enough. But the moment you start to look for it, again, if you find it, if you look for it, you find it, you need to have something else that is not. Then again, you have duality.
But the
That's
self
the
is
problem.
only possible through the others. There is no self if there is no
Yeah, of course. I mean,
others.
me, I'm totally dependent that there is other. Without other, there is no me. And also, when we think how seriously we take ourselves, if I think I am the only one on this whole planet that calls myself I, everybody else is other, and I make such a big fuss. And I'm the only one who calls myself I, me. And also there was, I can't remember who it was, who said like, look, all the things we do for this I, me, yeah, like all the time, if we would have to do that for somebody else, how long would we last? To do it happily, wash, brush teeth, get up in the morning, cook, go shopping, make sure that they're happy, make sure that they're comfortable. Maybe mothers can do it for their children, but if it's somebody else, you burn out. We will complain. They're treating me like a slave. Yeah. So this is why, when you say the self does not exist, don't say like this, because otherwise you fall into nihilism. Like this separate self, this autonomous self, this seemingly permanent self does not exist. This unchanging self does not exist.
That's
That
what
one.
I mean, yes.
That one is refuted. That one does not exist in Buddhism. In Buddhism, I'm not sure if it exists somewhere, but in Buddhism, it does not exist.
Ani Losang, can I ask another question maybe on the karma side?
Yeah.
Because I think that many, as a Christian, but we said so much information. We also said, okay, it's like I need to digest. It's a lot of information. Like if you were like you are talking to complete beginners, like we don't know anything about karma. Now we got all this information. Now we have to go home and somehow live our lives. If you had like one
This is why you
advice
have the sheet of paper. I mean, you have the framework. So
if you had one advice to give kind of on a practical level, how to apply what is the number one thing to do or stop doing when we go home based on this teaching, what would that be?
to look at the 10 non-virtuous actions and to abstain from them. This is it. And they're not difficult to understand. We understand what killing is, we understand what stealing is, we understand what sexual misconduct
Until
is.
we don't have wrong views, for example, because we are kind of
Huh?
I mean, we're walking around just with wrong views, right? So wrong view is also like actually hard to abstain from, unfortunately.
Well, but body and speech we can take care of. Because at the moment there is no real need to do these negative actions. And to continue to look at it. And we'll do a bit before we start, and after lunch we do a reflection a little bit to feel, the quality of mind when I do steal, when I do kill, even if it's just insects, when I do lie, and then the quality of mind when the results come, so that we start to to experience that. Yeah, it's a lot of information, but I think it's good to have it, because otherwise, again, if you just go with these 10 non-virtuous actions, then if you don't understand that there's many other factors that come into it, then again it sounds like the 10 Commandments or something like that. And you're all intelligent people, so it's okay, you know. So look at this sheet of paper from time to time, and this is why we did a recap, so that you see, it's like this, and then that needs to be there, and it's the intention, it's the completion, and all this, and then slowly, I think it will come. Do we stop here? From my side, we can stop here if it's too much.
Sure.
Then you don't get the purification, but it's okay if you think it's.
Here. No, I thought you were stopping for lunch.
Yeah, for lunch, sure. For lunch, definitely. But if we can also stop the whole thing if you think it's too much and you're totally full. You see, this is another thing. We will come here, we want to relax. That's not what it's meant for.
It's nice when you have it, but it's nice when you get it, but
it's nice when you get it, and you get it like if you do other things like it, then you get it also. But here is like, I had to give you all this information. This is what's in the Discovering Buddhism thing. It's my job. Exactly. It's my job. And I think you can work your mind around it, actually. Because I found this very, very helpful to know you need an intention, you need a completion, because otherwise I do an action, I feel bad. But then I see, but I had absolutely no intention. And also what I did start to do with this, to cook up excuses for doing negative actions. You know, that, well, I did it because blah, blah, blah. We so quickly, you know, we find an excuse to do. That's the dangerous thing. It's much better to say, yes, I fucked up, as you said yesterday. I need to purify. And this we do if you still want, and if you still have energy, we do this afternoon. The 4 opponent powers, and then we do a short Vajrasattva practice. And then you can digest the whole thing. And you know, you come here very often, you can continue to discuss. This is how you learn. Sorry if I totally overwhelmed you.
Not a problem.
Christian is not a problem. The other guys? Huh? You're okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, for me personally, the part where it comes to the part where you talk about the tendencies, I mean, I think that makes sense quite quickly when you talk about karma, because you can observe it in yourself, and it's easy to observe.
Yeah.
Okay, if I once get angry with this person, it's very likely it will happen again.
Yeah.
So this
This
something
is
that I
easy.
can verify really quickly. But when it comes to such things such as I look at the tea and it looks very delicious to me, or I get delighted by the tea drinking it, but actually this delight is the result from a totally different action.
That you like it, not that you have the tea. Yeah.
You know, the fact that I'm really delighted by it, or mixed with attachment, this seems to come from a totally different action, right? From positive action.
From a positive action, yeah.
So this is something
to
new to
figure out.
Yeah. So these kinds of things.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, it's good to use that also to say you have a pleasant experience. So then instead of just going, oh wow, nice, then you start to understand, oh, this is from a positive action. When it's an unpleasant feeling, you go, oh, this is from a negative action. So that you start to look at your actions every day. And then in order for it not to go into attachment, you know, just for me, then you go, oh, may all beings have like such pleasant experiences. You know, then you're not exhausting that positive imprint, but you're creating more. And your life will become much more easier also. Instead of just my pleasure I want to have, but because it's nothing, as Nina says, there's nothing wrong with pleasure. Yeah? Problem is that we get attached to it and we think that the pleasure is coming from the object. And that logically you can also see that it can't be. This is not true. Because otherwise you would have the same experience, the same sensation every time you meet, you make contact with the object. It depends on many factors, the state of your mind, the state of the environment. You know, like in the middle of winter when you're really cold, and you want an ice cream that you love in the summer, no pleasure.
May I ask another question before we go?
Yeah, for me, we can stay until 5 o'clock. No, 5 I can't because I need to go back to Bern. But yeah, for me it's
I'm
fine.
wondering about the kind of mental suffering that we all have, or maybe just I have, that is not easily attributable to a concrete. So it's very easy to say, okay, if I'm in an earthquake, I created karma through an earthquake, or I have, somebody punches me in the face, I have pain, so I can kind of, connect it to the 10 negative actions and whatever. What about this kind of emotional pain that we have? Like some people maybe have, problems from the childhood, or maybe from previous lifetimes or whatever, which you cannot easily connect with action and the object or whatever, yet there is emotional.
Well, if you look at the 3 negative actions of the mind, envy, harmful thoughts, and wrong views, but especially envy and harmful thoughts, that also creates imprints.
But I'm thinking, for example, that I'm reading a book now about, for example, like victims of abuse from childhood, or things like this, where people all their lives suffer from maybe some kind of trauma, or also post-traumatic stress disorder, maybe from the war or something like this, and how it even can carry through generations, so that their children also have these kind of problems, and things like this. And I'm just wondering how to connect that with karma, or like a lot of people have tendencies to depression, like depression very big here in Switzerland, for example.
Losang Palmo is depression and sexual misconduct.
So it's a
sexual misconduct.
So it's a
because it creates depression also in your partner, like going off with somebody else or raping somebody. Like one of the causes for depression is like sexual misconduct, not in this life, but in a past life.
And other like mental problems that people have that cannot be attributed to a.
I have a lot of fears, and I panic and this and that, and so I figured out I must have made somebody really afraid in past lives, like maybe abuse of power or something like that. It really makes me easier to accept my hang-ups that I have when I look at this. Because also when I heard about this, the first thing I thought, I'm not the victim, and I have a choice. And the choice only comes when I am aware, with awareness, this basic awareness, to know what's going on in the mind. Yeah, I can shape my future. What I did in the past, I've done. I can purify, but then, And for me, it was very helpful to hear these things, because this is it. I'm not the victim, but then I'm not looking at others, what is happening to them, And I think if you are having some mental problems, and that person being kind of stable enough to hear these things, because I would never teach somebody these things who has a trauma, never, ever, So, because it sounds like it's your fault, a bit. But when you hear these things and you feel that you are having mental problems, then it's good that you start to think yourself, what could it be? You might get an answer, because saying it for others, I have no idea. I don't know. But yeah, the way we behave is like we make other people suffer mentally when we are, kind of rejecting them or not respecting them, making fun of them, gossiping about them, all that. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Let's go have lunch. I mean, just that, to be able to just go and eat, to eat without having to fight for the food. I mean, we don't even realize how much positive karma we need for that.
Unless we have to fight for the food, then.
This is why we
I'm not sure how much food there is.